most businesses fail before the 1 year mark or at the 1 year mark, right? And I mean, it's a substantial number. I don't know exactly what it is today, but I know like 3 years ago, I think it was 94%.
A lot of people help you along the way. I don't know any business owners who have done it well and done it long that don't have a team of people that have, given them opportunities to stood behind them when they probably shouldn't have. And certainly I've had those stories in my career.
I built and burnt so many to the ground to get here that, it's like I just forgot one that stuck. I was crazy enough to keep trying.
But what the business world has taught me is buckle up.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Barndo Show. And today I have a fellow entrepreneur and my friend Kyle here. Kyle, take a second to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me first and foremost. So I'm an owner of a company here in Woodruff called ESS Industrial, and I actually got a new partner last year, my nephew Hunter. So we live in the industrial setting. 90% of what we do is in a plant setting. We buy industrial equipment. We have a metal recycling division. We do indoor-outdoor storage and warehousing. And then what else do we do? We also have a rigging division where we relocate plants for customers. And so all those things knit together more than you would think. And we built them because they feed each other business and feed each other opportunities.
Also, I was going to say, it was like, what else do we do? It depends on the next opportunity, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to stay in our lane. But, again, our motto is if it feeds a division or another division, then it probably makes sense. But
well, that's cool.
But yeah.
Well, it was fun because we were talking before the show, and you were saying, you guys have been at this for 18 years. And that's a testament to time. I talk about it all the time. I deal with a lot of like entrepreneur-minded people. They may be an entrepreneur at another company or something, and they got this dream, this ambition, and like they want to jump out and chase it. And the scariest statistic of that is most businesses fail before the 1 year mark or at the 1 year mark. Right. And I mean, it's a substantial number. I don't know exactly what it is today, but I know like 3 years ago, I think it was 94% of businesses fail at year one that are started. Right. And then you start looking into those numbers of like how many businesses are started every year, and it's astronomical as well. So then it helps you kind of, justify. You're like, no, I see businesses start all the time and they sustain, but it's such a small piece of the number of businesses on paper, the ideas. And I get people come to me all the time. My wife's friends are the ones because they don't really know me. They peer in from the outside of our life and they're like, "How cool is that? You had this idea for a business and it was successful." And I'm like, "Yeah, I built and burnt so many to the ground to get here that it's like I just forgot one that stuck. I was crazy enough to keep trying, and so." In 18 years, talk about that a little bit. Like, what do you think the parallels of you starting this thing 18 years ago to today? Did you feel like 18 years ago you'd be it today?
Oh no, I had no clue. I mean, you go to school and you got plans and you think and then God has other plans. And I think, one thing I like to tell people is you can't out strategize or God's plan. And my faith's important to me. There are so many smarter people in this world that deserve to be owning a business and running a business for 18 years. But, what we want to do is steward it well. And listen, we've had the same thing. We've gone after things that just didn't work out. You dream, you think, you strategize, but I think that's a testament to God's plan, man. Yeah. And, a lot of people help you along the way. I don't know any business owners who have done it well and done it long that don't have a team of people that have, given them opportunities to stood behind them when they probably shouldn't have. And certainly I've had those stories in my career. So, yeah, I mean, simple things. We want to stay hard after it. We want to grind with it. We always say we don't want anybody outwork us. But that's another thing, you give it your best, you hang in there, opportunities happen. There's been times where I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing.
But you hit
And
something.
I'm sure you've been there too.
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Every day I wake
Yeah.
up that way. That's how you know you're growing.
Yeah.
You know, if I've been here before, then I'm in the same place. And you hit something that was so good that one of my mentors, you know, and someone who's super dear to me, been on the show before, Nick Alfano. I talk about him all the time because he was the first real coach that I had in business and life. You know, he runs a group for men, you know, entrepreneur type men, and his thing is, you know, build businessman that can establish a business plan, and really aligning your life with faith, focus, family, you know, fitness, finances, all of that, making it work together, and helping you kind of become someone who's not hiding things. And the program is the name of his group that he runs, and the slogan there was, you know, hey, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And that is a testament to what team can do, what other people helping you can do, and being humble enough to accept someone that maybe has been somewhere you've never been, and it's a heck of a lot easier to get there safely, letting them guide you and help you along the way, right? And the other part of that is, you know, talking about team and talking about the stresses and people standing behind you. I think a lot of that leans back into in business and entrepreneurship. Getting started isn't the hardest part, as hard as it is. Keep going is the hardest part of any business, because you're going to encounter things that, you know, the version of you before this happened probably would have quit. But you kind of, you know, your character builds in those things. And you talked about being aligned with faith. And I think very, very certainly, you know, God calls people out, takes them on a journey, and reveals to them their true identity, right? And I stole that from John Eldridge, but, you know, fantastic author. Changed my life reading his Wild at Heart book, you know, 20-something years ago. But he absolutely does that. And so you get called out, took on this journey, and then you get this identity, right? Like you think you know, but then you get tested and it becomes solidified. This is who I am. And I think you can't get there without the trials.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think, you know, owning a business takes courage, obviously. But I think the times where I've been most proud of what God's doing in my life is when I've been really uncomfortable. I've been unsure. And uncomfortable places are not fun. But, I mean, I think the more you get into God's word, the more you live life, you realize that that's when God can really take over. And, you know, there's things we have to do. You know, we got to understand the value of people. We got to understand the value of building teams and letting people who are better at things than you kind of step up and take control of things. And I think you know none of this when you first get started. No. You know, you think, man, I know how to make a sale, or I know how to find a good opportunity, or at least, you know, prioritize some opportunities. You know, but what the business world has taught me is that buckle up. You know, you're gonna see quickly your weaknesses, and then the goal was to add team members that can kind of offset some of that, and not give up on getting better at some of those weaknesses. But and that's when we've seen, you know, big strides in our business. And then not to forget that there's times when opportunities can make or break you, and that's why, you know, we say all the time, man, we pray for the right opportunities, because we don't always pick them well.
Well, you talk about young business owners, right? We were all there.
Sure.
We all started somewhere, you know, and you start from a place of what I can do. And then you have to transfer very quickly into what we can do. Right. And when you start thinking about what we can do, then you have to be a leader. And being a leader and being a performer are miles apart, you know. And I think that's a struggle. That's a struggle I struggled with, because I was really gifted at certain things. I could market well, sell well. I can do a lot of things well. Like I'm not a detail oriented person, but I'm a process person. So I can go into things, watch someone do it a little bit, and in my brain think there's a better way to do this, and probably perform very well. Like I've done a billion different things. You know, I've been in construction. I grew up in the construction industry, got into manufacturing and doing things like that, logistics and doing all these different pieces. I've been in sales and I was good at a lot of those things. But the thing about it was understanding that a lot of people aren't built the way I'm built to be able to think through those things. And so it's how do you have proper expectations to, bring people in and understand that not everyone is going to operate like you. And if they did, you wouldn't hire them to start with. You wouldn't like them. And, so there's a massive benefit to finding people that are weaker than you at things that they're way stronger than you in others. And I think that's the biggest turning point for most people when they go from starting a business to growing a business is learning how to do the we stuff, and over the course of 18 years, I mean, think about it. Like the number one thing that people run into when they talk about growth and sustaining a business, and you got all these different wings and arms of your business and all these things. And like, you just remember back to the days of just trying to start that one. It was so hard. And then you get resources and you get things and people start talking about capital, right? Like
cash flow, capital. Yeah.
You get capital. But what I think a lot of people rush to their capital because they're thinking about cash, right? And they overlook the most basic form of capital, which is human capital, people. What you can accomplish with little money, but lots of buy-in is insurmountable.
Sure.
You can move so fast and you can get so much done that I think a lot of times people are trying to leverage their own capital. And you got to be very people focused. And you said that, like, hey, understanding people and wanting to help people. So in your business, I'm sure that's a high priority for you. You said you around 60 employees. Talk about that a little bit. Like in your mind as leading the company, you said, hey, making people a priority. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, outside of having a product that somebody wants, right. Yeah. And needs, you can be one man in a truck and probably make a living. Okay. And, but I think God's called us to interact with people. Okay. And he wants us to, very clearly in his word, he tells us to pursue people. And so when we started dreaming about growing a business, we weren't so much concerned about revenue or the number of people, but, we wanted to add team members that brought some to the table. When we started branching out to multiple divisions, then it just innately takes more people. And so I think that's what excites me most. And, everybody does these personality tests and things like that. But a group of people sitting around a table, hashing out a vision and a plan, and then, activators to dreamers to make it happen, guys. To me, that is what drives me every day. And I think that I tell people I got the best gig in America. I really do. I love what I do. Certainly there's things that are not as fun as others, but that's where it's got to start. And those people have to trust each other. They have to have each other's back. They have to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. And then they got to execute together. And if you're a closer, we want you in those roles. If you're a dreamer, dream with the best of them. If you're a prospect, if you're a prospector or a business development guy, be the best guy in the upstate at that, So I think that answers some of your questions. It's super critical that you align well. You can't fake it. You can't fake being a team player. On any team I've ever been on, you just can't fake through that. You got to show up. You may stay after practice. You may stay after work. And then you're talking to people, and people are not resources that without hearts or desires. And everybody in our company wants a lot of the same things that I want. And if I'm not aware of that, then I'm failing.
Yeah.
And so,
you hit a nail on the head there for me. Of you start talking about these personalities and getting people like, hey, if you're this, I want you to be the best of this. And that's stewardship of human capital. Because when you start your business and you got this little core team, right? I remember when we first hired, it was like we went from just me and Ross, two dudes in a pickup truck and a big idea, to I'm like, hey man, this might actually work. And now we got to have more people to make this happen. So there's like 6 of us, right? And we're sitting in there, and out of the 6 of us, they're all generalists, right? We all wear every hat. We all have to have some level of understanding and capability to do whatever needs to be done. One of our core values is doer, right? And we revamped our core values last year, or at the beginning of 2025, to when we rolled out our Barndo 2.0. And it didn't go away. We just adapted them to be more specific, and that doer mentality didn't leave. However, you can only go so far with generalists, and then as you recruit people and build people, you want to move them into specialists. And that's kind of like that. If you think EOS, like that's that accountability structure. When you start building that out and mapping out what this thing has to look like, to hit this vision, right? Because there's never going to be a lack of dreamer. For me, that's who I am, right? And I was super blessed to have a business partner who is absolutely fundamentally a doer. Like that is what he is. He's integrator through and through. And then, but he's also humble enough that when we hit some capacity levels to where I don't know what to do in this arena, right? Like I was the best in the world from 0 to 20 million, but from 20 to 50 and 50 and beyond, I don't know that I have the tools necessary, and his ability to enact and pull people in and plug them into those roles to run that ball. But getting those specialists and moving them down into those seats where you might roll out V1 of that accountability chart and that structure, your org chart, and you got all these specific seats in the organization, and the same name appears in 5 or 6 or 7 of them, But the goal, that's that vision casting of this is where we're going, and the opportunity is you will move into what you're great at, and we'll hire other people who can do these things as good as you do this. And I think a lot of people struggle with getting that off of their plate. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck thinking about what they're capable of and trying to make everyone else do that. Like, I'm paying this guy. I don't want to hear his complaints about, hey, he don't like this part. I'm paying you to do it. And they lose on what could happen if that person was operating in their powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean, there's been multiple times throughout my career where I just sat down for a day and did org charts. Yeah. You've probably done the same, and you start thinking about strengths and passions, and before you get to that point, you start thinking about, okay, where do I think this guy fits best? And then, where I think it turned a corner for us is we started having conversations about where your passions were. You know what we do. You know as good as anybody what we do. You've been here. Where can we take your passions and plug it into a segmented role here? Certainly as you grow and you have more divisions and you create more revenue streams, and it's difficult because you want to put your guys that always make it happen in every role, and it's just not possible. And so you have to hire to the strengths and the weaknesses of your business, and it a lot more of that became the norm than I was expecting when I first got started. But real conversation, just generally caring about one of your teammates' desires and paths, and we got guys who do some things on the side, and a lot of business owners that have been around like, man, we want you all in here. And, I almost feel like that'd be unfair, not to let a guy pursue something on the side. Obviously, you don't want that to impact their role in your company, but it takes, you learn to be a little more selfless, although, that's not easy all the time, because you've got this goal and dream and you've been working at it and you want to see it come to fruition, and you hit a milestone, and the next thing I think we're thinking is, okay, what's our next milestone? Yep. You don't ever want to be complacent in your wins. I think, 18 years in, I think I feel less capable. I'm certainly not as intelligent as most of the guys on our team. And so, but I'm okay with that, because as long as they know I got their back, and that, I'm not trying to win in lieu of them. I want to win with them.
Yeah.
And then put in action with that. It's easy to say, but put in action with that. That's when your teammates, I think, are like, okay, I'm down with this.
Yeah. Well, you said it when you talked about hiring. You were like, hey, I got to find people that bring value. But the other part of that is the value you bring them, right? It's got to be an even exchange. And then you talking about, hey, well, I got people that do stuff on the side, and a lot of business owners are afraid of that. I think that boils down to a mindset. And I talk about it in my company all the time. It's abundance and scarcity. A lot of people get in scarcity because you're dealing with reality, right? We live in the world of operations where what's on paper doesn't match what's reality, and my worst days are my meetings with all of our accounting teams and all this stuff, because they're looking at numbers that aren't real numbers. And I'm like, I can't, I understand that you're doing what you need to do. I appreciate that. That's why we hired you. You're great at that. But I have to speak from what I know to be true of today. And, cash flow is king to me. Your reports are great. I'm a visionary, and I'm going, hey, I implemented a growth strategy to get us here, to get us there, whatever. But that ability to operate in abundance gets increasingly pressed when you're looking at all the things. You see the fires, you see the problems, you see the shortfalls, you see the gaps, and it's hard to operate there. But it's refreshing for me to hear somebody who's 18 years in and still has this abundance mentality, because I've done this with my team. And I tell my team all the time, I want to make you the best version of yourself here, to where I have to compete to keep you, right? I am not intimidated that you go work. I don't feel like we have competitors in the marketplace. There's other people who do what we do similarly, but they're not a competitor to me, because my main focus isn't the product, it's the people. And I want to turn you into the best version of that. And I just this week had someone who sent their resignation. They're going to chase this next big dream. And the whole framework is, were they a key player? Yes. Were they a key player in a market that needed them? Yes. Did they roll up their sleeves and get things done, and there's someone I can depend on? Yes. But I want them to win. And that wasn't just words. And so the email came in on a Sunday, and my leadership team, is like, oh my gosh, you see the email? Oh, da, 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 da. And so I'm talking to them like, hey, okay, yeah, no, you're right. This creates a hole, a void, a problem, something, but you're capable to solve it. My first priority was to call the person and say, I'm cheering for you. I'm rooting for you. That's big. Go do it. I believe in you. You're going to crush this. And I think that abundance mentality allows you to celebrate people without feeling like you're grieving yourself. And it's been paramount in our ability to grow what we've grown in 4 years. We just turned 4 years old. And to get there, and the only way to survive is to have that mindset that you're talking about. Is I have an abundance mindset of, I don't believe in limiting someone's potential because they're helping me achieve my goals.
Yeah, and I certainly want to honor the Lord if we're serious about our faith and doing that. Yeah, I think that's great, man. I think people look closely at the times in your life where you may be losing somebody, or just tougher times, and that's when we get to see kind of our real heart come out of things. And even if you wanted to keep that guy, and you wanted to counter or try to, at least he knows that, dude, if you leave here, I'm gonna pull just as hard for you. And I think that says a lot, about your heart and about the heart of your company.
Are you looking for a home, but you're tired of the cookie cutter options that you find everywhere? You want something to stand out, and rather than look for a conversation starter in your home, allow your home to be that. Head over to thebarndoco.com, browse our floor plans, click that contact us button, and let's start building your dream Barndo today. There's not secrets to success, there's clues, right? There's definitely clues. And I think some people, it's dependent on how you define success, right? I don't think money defines it. I think there's a lot more to it. And so some people's definition of success is just infinite money, right? And you can look at that and you can see people that own businesses and have accumulated wealth. And I don't know that they're great leaders, right? I don't know that they really embrace and embody it. But when you run into someone who views their life and business as a mission from God, it changes everything. And like,
yeah, it looks a lot different.
It has
no
to.
doubt.
It has to, because you're not the main role, right? Like you're not that. It's not about you. You become a servant to the people that work with you, and you work alongside of them. And yes, you win. And yes, you have to be a good steward, and you have to do all the right. You have to run the business with integrity, because you're a representation of a bigger plan here, a bigger thing. And it's refreshing for me. I love it. I love to be able to connect with other entrepreneurs that understand that and get it. What do you think has been one of the biggest wins for you as someone who operates out of that abundance mindset? Like when you look back at the last 18 years and those things, and your wins are going to look different, right? It's going to be a different thing for you. I have a story that I've shared a billion times about mine, but for you, in terms of people and team building and a win that you saw that inspired you to keep going, that maybe that wouldn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but in that moment for you, it was like so eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, there's been several along the way. And I think, just to clarify, I think the American dream says pile up as much money as you can, right? And that's the win. But those guys aren't happy. And I mean, obviously, we measure wins at times by profit, and that's got to be to keep your cash flow in check, to keep your business rocking. So we certainly want to win in those areas, but that's not the end all be all, especially from an internal mindset. A couple of wins. I had a guy that started. He's been there longer than me, I think. he was a $12 an hour guy, and man, he just worked, and he learned, and he listened, and now he's one of our best project managers, and making really good money for he and his family. And just to see that, and to see got a lot of that happen, in a company that he allowed me to be a part of and start is such a win. And then we've got a guy who is 3 years sober. He's a functioning alcoholic, and he loves to tell a story. Didn't realize that he smelled of alcohol every day, and that was a safety issue for us. And but man, he's 3 years sober, and he's sober because people in our company were willing to have hard conversations with him and pray with him and let God take over. And man, he quit alcohol quicker than anybody I've ever seen. And he'll tell you it's because of what God did in his life. And to have some of our leaders just rally around him and lead the way on that, man, is very humbling to sit back and watch. And so those are a few stories. I mean, God's made a way in so many areas of our business, and we've had our share of failures. I've done dumb things. I hadn't handled situations well. Some of my biggest regrets are probably handling situations in our company a little too fast, and maybe selfishly, and maybe when letting some people go earlier on. And so I've learned that, when it comes to people, slow down. Make sure, your heart's right and your frustrations, out before you make those comments and tough decisions. And so, yeah, man, there's been just multiple situations where I'm like, how in the world did that just happen? Because I know, my weaknesses, and it doesn't take long for other people to know them either. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's powerful. What's funny for me is like, I'm a faith guy, right? Like I live that life. It's in me. I'm not a perfect human. I'm far from it, right? Like I think sometimes I pull back a little bit from it because I'm like, I am far from the example. But like God has changed my life. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be like, and I lead from that perspective of like, I don't deserve any of this, much like you were saying, right? There's people far smarter, far more qualified, far more capable. But I think the difference was I was willing to, right? And I've been through some desolate situations personally, financially, in business. I have stared down the long road and just kept going because I had faith in something bigger. But what was funny was, we started this company and nothing in our core values is like, we're a faith-based company. Nothing in any of that is that way. Like, we don't market it as, a Christian company or none of these things. But like, we kind of have these values. And if the values are real in the company, then they came from the people that started it, right? And you get alignment there. And so I guess the values came from two faith-based believers, right? Two Christian guys. And so we built those in there, and we're trying to hold ourselves accountable to them, right? Like, I fail daily.
Sure.
I let it slip often. Like, it's as much for me as it is for anyone else to set the bar high, to live and operate in a way, even when I don't want to, right? I do because I believe in it, and I believe that there's an advantage to it. But what was funny for us was in two instances. One was in Tennessee. I'm standing there with a pretty prolific mega church pastor, and it was for me. I was like, I can't believe I'm talking to this guy. Like, I followed him on social media for 20 years, and now I'm standing here on the land that, I've seen him and all these other incredible musicians and things in the industry. I'm like, I'm on the farm. This is awesome. And he was like, man, so do you got a background in church? I was like, yeah, I was part of church plants and doing that in the past. And he's like, I knew it. He's like, he said, I told my wife, somebody took the church playbook and turned it into a business. And I was like, and it was funny for me because I didn't ever think of it that way. But I'm like, well, at that part of my life, God had me in that environment. And so like some of the fundamentals of leadership that I learned and some of the ways that you build a team, that's what I knew. So I brought it here, and he's like, well, it's awesome. That's the reason we called you, right? Like this, it aligns so well. And then I remember we cut the ribbon on our Dunn, North Carolina location almost 2 years ago. And I'm sitting there and like I'm up there for a ribbon cut and I'm getting interviewed by people and all these different things, and there's families coming through that day that are choosing to onboard with the company and build and do these things, and I'm walking around trying to shake hands with people, and this family sitting there and they're like, for us, man, we're just so excited to see a Christian company come into this area, and like, we're so excited to be able to operate with a Christian business. And I'm hearing him talk, and in my head, I'm trying to disqualify that. I'm like, we're not a Christian business. But again, it leaves clues, and I think I struggled the most with that because I did, I didn't live, I was not a Christian until later in life. My wife was a big piece of that. She grew up in the church, set the standard, set the bar real high, kind of told me, like, if you want this to be something, then this is what I'm looking for. And so I had to make a choice, right? Good. And, but I'm just one of those people, right? So like, I got saved and just jumped in, like, and dove in, got so involved in church and got, mission. I got a mission-minded heart. Like, I just love to pour out and give and do things. And I lived in that world, and I just never really knew a difference. But then when I didn't build my tenure in being a pastor, or building a church and doing all those things. So like, then I was like, it's almost like I was like, well, I'm just going to go out here into the secular world with a business. And I think I wrestled for years to figure out that like that was my mission, right? Like, I'm building it, I'm doing the things, but I'm building it outside of the walls of the church. And I think, God has a funny way to remind you of that sometimes, of like people coming to you and realizing like, yeah, no, it's not me, but I had the opportunity to build this on these principles, and like it has a reach, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, the best playbook in the world for business and people is the Bible. So, that's that one's kind of easy to grasp for me. But yeah, faith in the workplace is unique because you see a lot more of it in the South, right? And you see people vocally standing on it, and then maybe sometimes they don't quite measure up to what they're saying. And so we're going to be careful with that. You don't have to be a Christian to work for our company. As a matter of fact, we hope there's non-Christians that come in and leave as followers of Jesus, and so, but I think it's something that God expects us to push and try to make a way for. I spend more time at work than I do at home. I'm sure you do the same, or at least in that setting. So, if I'm gonna live my faith out, I better be living it out there, and I don't have to be perfect. I don't disqualify myself for failing, but a repentant heart and chasing after things that honor the Lord have to be real to me, and they have to be authentic to the people, or people are going to dismiss it. And I've seen that dismiss it, not just in the business world, but in a lot of places where, what this guy says and what he does doesn't match up. And so that's a warning for me, and any follower of Christ, right? That we better, if we're going to say it, we better be about it. And, and then sometimes we get a little too much credit. Yeah. Like, man, I can't believe you're doing, running this faith-based company. And you're like, do you know what I thought about this morning and how aggravated I was? But that's God's grace. And,
100%.
So yeah, it's got to be real, man. Yeah. And, I hope that's what our teammates and our customers and our competitors and our vendors are seeing. And, we don't always make an A, but sure, we darn sure are trying. And, if we fail, we're going to own up to it. And I think people are okay with that.
100%. And it's cool to incorporate it in your business because, again, it challenges you to be that person as much as it challenges the team to operate with that, mentality and the core values and how that aligns. And it's hard work. It's discipline. Yeah. It's dedication. It's a lot of things. And it's as much for me as it is for anyone else. And, there's days that I could lay my head down and say my company operates at a much higher level than I do. And it's cool to have been able to build something like that. And I'm thankful for people that came in the beginning to help me think that way. To build something to where it's not based off me. And if I fail, the company doesn't have to. And if I win, the company might not. It's not. They're not the same. This company serves the people that work in it, and then serves the clients that we service. And I'm just a part of it.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. You work for them. Your job's to honor them and serve those folks, from your lowest paid guy to your highest paid guy to your most dependable vendor to maybe you're not. And if you take that mindset, I think it clearly gives you your role. And so we're still working at it every day and failing our way through it. But it's, I want my teammates to know that, their wins are important to me. And if we fail together, and hopefully they'll look at me that way too. And I think it's Philippians 2:4 says, look not only to your own interest, but also to the interest of others. And, that's pretty powerful in the business setting.
100%. Was there anything else that you're excited about that you got coming up, or anything inside the?
Yeah, we're in rapid growth mode, man. And I don't, you just said it earlier. I don't know how I'm in a position to be here. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to be making all the decisions. We're going to do it as a team. We got, our recycling division is really taking off. Our rigging and project world and equipment sales is having a banner year. But having these successes and still feeling inadequate I think that's where we need to be and stay.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited about where we're heading as a company. And, there's some fears that pop up. There's some, you're trying to gauge how aggressive you want to be, with your capital, and certainly cash flow is a conversation we talk about every day. And if you're in business and you're not, then get in the habit of it,
right.
because it's
Get a cash flow report.
It's a ton of successful businesses that just miss the boat on the cash flow, and it ends up rearing its head. So yeah, man, we're excited to be in Woodruff, and we still think that our yard and our facility has some growth potential here, and then so we're going to stay at it.
That's awesome. So if somebody was listening and want to connect with the company, learn more about it, or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, give me a call. You can go to our website, essindustrial.com. My cell phone's on there. My email's on there. I'll probably get you in touch with our smart people if you really want to talk detail. But if you got a plant relocation or a decommissioning, demolition opportunity, if you got a bunch of metal recycling, we also our peddler division, we also buy scrap from the public now. So give us a call. We'll give you pricing on your scrap metals, and come by and see us. The coffee pot's always on. We always got some kind of snacks. Miss Krista up at the office, she always keeps us fed well. So, but stop by and see us, and we'll give you a tour if nothing else. 398 Willis Road.
That's awesome.
The big city of Woodruff.
The big, it's coming. It's coming.
It's going.
That'll age well, right?
Yeah,
the big city of Woodruff.
That's right.
Well, man, Kyle, I appreciate you taking some time, come on here and talk through some of this stuff and be an encouragement, because what's wild is we started this show to talk about barndominiums. Yeah. And what we found was we had more engaged. Like, we get a lot of people that come to us and want to build with us because of this show. But I think it's because I pull the curtain back and talk a lot about who we are more than what we do. But we get a lot of entrepreneurs, builders, all kinds of different industries that lean into this and listen to stuff, because I try to get people in here to talk about the reality of running a business and what it takes, and I love it when I get somebody that's so aligned from a vision and a mission as me.
Thanks a ton for having us. And yeah, same here, man. I stay encouraged when I meet folks like yourself, and we need to get our teams together and let them talk and see if we can't spur each other on
man.
more often. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. You bet.